The place that we'll focus on in this vignette is the University of Göttingen in Göttingen, Germany. It was founded in 1737, and it's where Noether studied for a term in 1903-04, and where she returned from 1915 to 1933 to do research and teach. It's important to understand the university as it relates to a woman studying at her time, and it's also important to understand that the university was a world-known center for mathematics at the time. As we know, Noether was born and first studied in Erlangen, Germany, and later attended the University of Göttingen. You can see on the map that it's just north of her hometown. Before we look specifically at Göttingen, it's first important to understand the situation for women in Germany at the time as it relates to their education. The famous historian Henrik von Trisch had an opinion that was pretty common in that time. Basically, he believed that women should not be permitted to attend university. He was quoted as saying, "Many sensible men these days are talking about surrendering our universities to the invasion of women, and thereby falsifying their entire character. This is a shameful display of moral weakness. They are only giving way to the noisy demands of the press. The intellectual weakness of their position is unbelievable. The universities are surely more than mere institutions for teaching science and scholarship. The small universities offer the students a comradeship which in the freedom of its nature is of inestimable value for the building of a young man's character." Women were eventually permitted to enroll in universities, however, just in time for Noether in 1900. To offer some comparison, women were permitted to enroll at universities in the US in 1853, in France in 1861, in England in 1878, and in Italy in 1885. A brief look at the situation in Erlangen will also help us to understand things in Germany in the early 1900s. Although it was now permitted for women to attend university conditionally, it still wasn't very common, and in fact, when Noether attended between 1900 and 1902, only 2 women were attending out of almost 1,000 students. In addition to that, women couldn't formally register, they could only audit classes, and in order to do so, they had to have the permission of each professor whose classes they wanted to sit in on. It helped that she knew many of the professors because of her father's work, and she was therefore granted permission to attend lectures that she might not otherwise have been able to attend. By 1904, after her year at Göttingen, Noether returned to earn her doctorate, and that decision was motivated by the fact that opportunities for women had improved by 1904. However, the time that she spent there after earning her doctorate between 1907 and 1915 was still an unpaid position, and she only worked there unofficially to continue her research and help her father. Back at Göttingen University, it's worth noting that this was the first university in Germany to grant a doctoral degree to a woman. Both Sonia Kovalevsky and Grace Chisholm Young earned degrees in the time before Noether studied there. However, in 1915, when she was invited back to the university by Hilbert, women still could not hold official positions on faculty, so she was hesitant to return. When she did return, she had to advertise her courses under Hilbert's name. For example, one of her courses was advertised, Mathematical Physics Seminar, Professor Hilbert, with the assistance of Dr. E. Noether, Mondays from 4 to 6. Hilbert and Klein fought for her habilitation, her right to teach, between the time in 1915 and 1919. However, the all-male faculty at the time continued to vote not to accept her. Finally, in 1919, she was granted the rank of Privadansen, similar to an assistant professor, but she remained unpaid until 1923. Initially, her parents paid for her room and board, and after their death, she got by on a small inheritance, as well as some earnings from substituting for others. Finally, she obtained an official algebra lecturer position in 1923, with an honorary title and a small salary, more like an honorarium. Now that we understand Göttingen as a workplace for a woman during the time that Noether was there, it's also important to know that it really was considered a world center for mathematics. Leading mathematicians that worked there included Felix Klein, David Hilbert, Hermann Minkowski, and Karl Rung. The work that they did attracted mathematicians from all over the world, from places including Holland, Austria, France, the Soviet Union, Poland, the United States, and of course from other German universities. This also meant that the best students were attracted, and this was important as it relates to Noether's work because she was able to share her work and it became well known all over the world. One student who studied with her was B.L. van der Waerden, who studied for a year with Noether, and his publication made her work increasingly well known and accepted around the world. He published Modern Algebra in 1931, and it was written in 2 volumes, the second of which borrowed largely from Noether's work and got her work and her name out there. So it may have turned out differently if she hadn't worked with such bright students and colleagues. So it was very important that the university was so well known for mathematics during the time she was there. Finally, it's important to understand the University of Göttingen, as well as Germany as a whole, as the Second World War was approaching. In 1933, Adolf Hitler gained power in Germany, and soon after, Jewish people were no longer allowed to hold various types of government positions, which included university positions. As a Jewish woman, Noether was among the first of those required to leave their positions at Göttingen. It was because of this that Noether accepted a visiting professorship at Bryn Mawr College, USA. It's the first time in her life that she was officially recognized as a professor and received an official salary. However, we have to wonder how this changed her career path and what she might have done differently if she were able to stay in Germany for a longer period of time.